Biden was at the United Nations this week and made one of the most riveting speeches probably they've ever heard. Watch.
Now, even as we evolve our institutions and drive creative new partnerships, let me be clear. Certain principles of our international system are sacrosanct.
I mean, what better clip could we cut to than Jim Carrey in Liar, Liar? But that is basically, when Joe started speaking, and then he always somewhere in his sentence says, let me be clear. But if you listen to the beginning of the sentence, it's like, I want to be clear. Well, you weren't. That's just the problem. We had no idea what he was saying. None.
No, it's real life.
Just
I didn't know they were going to do that clip, by the way.
Oh,
so
you
it
didn't?
kind of caught me a little off guard.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That's funny.
That was funny. So another time he is speaking, and again, it's like you remember those old 45 and 33 and a third LP albums? Of course you do.
Of course.
And sometimes the groove would get a scratch on it and it would stick and it would just go over and over and over the same thing. I think Joe had a scratch in the groove this week.
And together with 29 other partners, and their partners, we're committed to help Ukraine build a force capable of ensuring Ukraine's long-term security.
You look at those cabinet members sitting around the table and you're watching their faces and it's like, is this really happening? And I'm sitting here and he's the chief executive and I work for him. And you almost can see in their faces, they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's the head nod.
You know, like, help the boy, help the boy. Because desperately he needs it. It's just tragic.
David, Indiana, asking today, Dear Gov, do you think anyone is tired of the media screamers? And can we just get down to the business at hand as our forefathers did a few years ago?
Good question, Dave. I think the media is hopelessly lost. I just don't see any hope for them because they've become cheerleaders for the left. There's no objectivity. There's no sense of journalism, none at all. Donald Trump said something that was incredibly controversial, for which he was pilloried over it. What he said has turned out to be quite true. And I don't mean this 100% because there's no such thing as everybody in the media. That's not fair. But he made the comment that the media is the enemy of the people. Predominantly, he's right. Now, let me be clear why I say that. If the entity that is supposed to deliver unvarnished truth and objective information to the American people so that they can make up their own minds about what they think is good or bad and vote accordingly, if they're not given information that is objectively the truth, but is instead a very tainted message geared toward what the party in power wants us to believe, the reason they have become the enemy of the people is because they have not only been derelict in their duty, they've actually become participants and the leaders of misinformation and disinformation by not telling the American people the truth. Therefore, in a free society, they become the enemy of the people because now the people don't have any way to get the truth. Not true of everybody in the news business, but it is true of most of them. And quite frankly, I hold most of them in contempt. We have a crisis at the border. I think most everybody understands it. If you see any video, you see 10,000 people a day coming across the border, sometimes more. We're talking millions, not thousands, millions of people who have now entered our border, our country, illegally since Joe Biden has taken office. He just announced we're going to give basically work permits to 475,000 Venezuelans. We don't know who they are. We don't know, are they terrorists? Do they have diseases? We have no idea. We're just going to come on in, go to work. It's fine. If you're an American citizen, you don't get to go to a job that easily. It's just not like that.
Right.
I'm amazed. But the White House says we don't have a problem. Now, first of all, I want to show you just a little video clip. This is just video to show. You'll see some of these folks streaming in. This is A massive, go ahead and roll the tape, because I don't think there's any audio on this first one here, where you see these masses of people. And if you look at that line, it's as far back as you can see. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people just coming right in. Not a speed bump at all to get in. Amazing. And then you think of all the people who have immigrated here legally, how many hoops they had to jump through, how long it took, how much money they spent on attorneys and going through all the paperwork. Look, our country is built on wonderful immigrants who've come from all over the world and added so much to this country. We're grateful. We're enhanced by immigration. It's been a godsend to America. It is America, for heaven's sakes. But it was done legally, and it was done by people who wanted to be Americans. They didn't want to come and just live off of Americans. They wanted to become one of us and work hard, live the American dream, and be part of it. And that's not what we're seeing altogether. Now, Karine Jean-Pierre, and by the way, Dan Mandis on a local radio station, here's on a news talk station, has the best name for Karine Jean-Pierre I've heard. He calls her Karine Jean-Pierre. Isn't that good?
That's very good.
So Dan Mandis, good job, man. Good job. I like that. So Karine, I'm going to steal it from Dan, and I give him credit. Karine Jean-Pierre is asked the question, 10,000 a day are coming in. When is enough enough? Watch.
How many people coming into this country illegally is enough for President Biden then?
Say that last one.
How many people illegally coming into the United States is enough for President Biden's administration?
Enough for what?
5.9 million people have been encountered illegally.
I know the numbers, but enough for what?
Enough just to stop the flow.
As I mentioned, this is a problem that's been around for some time now, for decades, a broken system.
Problem has been around this long, this bad. It just hasn't. Not even under Obama was it this crazy and uncontrolled. And it was bad enough then, but nothing like this. We've never had a problem. She's lying when she says it's been like this for decades. No, it hasn't. It has not been like this. In fact, if it had been, then you would have had the same issues in New York and Chicago and these other blue cities and states where they said, oh, we're a sanctuary city. We're better than those other cities. We're sanctuary. We want these people to come. And when a handful of them came, they've gone into panic mode. 50 illegals went to Martha's Vineyard, and just 50 people at Martha's Vineyard called them into such panic that they called the National Guard in to handle 50 people. Think how they're dealing in Texas and places like Eagle Pass, a tiny little town, and they're getting 10,000 a day. Just insane. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I hope you will now. The button is just below this video, and there's a little bell next to it. If you click on those, YouTube will reluctantly start letting you know when we've got a new video uploaded.